too much myself, but I'll just keep things moving along. Everybody get signed in, I guess? We got an agenda? It's so much more exciting with an agenda. First up is adoption of the agenda. Does anyone have any last minute changes or addendums to the, they would like to propose for the agenda? Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt as is? So moved. Do I have a second? Seconds. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, adopted. And approval of the full meeting minutes from last month. I'm sure you all read that this weekend when the newsletter came out. A motion. Well, does anyone have any issues with the minutes as they stand?
The minutes are fine, but I want to point something out about the Easter egg hunt announcement. I made it twice. The front announcement looks like both the 11:15 and 12 o'clock hunts are at the linear park.
They are.
They are.
Inside there's something that says once at Cotton Elementary.
There's a whole separate event at Cotton, and we don't advertise that in the newsletter. It's for the students
It's
who are
something
there.
inside the newsletter.
Right.
I read it in there.
In the report, it mentions the Cotton one as well,
Okay,
but
so-
it's not a public event, so.
Oh, okay.
Sorry if that's confusing.
Yeah, that confused
But
me.
there actually will be two dispersals of eggs at
In
the
the
park.
linear
That's
park.
right, that's two times.
Okay, gotcha.
So, we have a motion to adopt the minutes from last month.
I motion. Second.
Have a second? Second. All in favor? Opposed? Minutes are adopted. All right, and we can put people on the spot a little bit. Major, do we have any first timers here tonight? Could you just, again, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, it's a life story, but if you just mind, just give us your name, maybe tell us where you live in the neighborhood, and why tonight, what brought you out tonight?
Yeah, my name is Willie Reed. I live right on the opposite corner right here of Aganair and Mistletoe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm mostly curious on the Fredericksburg Road.
Excellent, good, good. Thanks. How about you?
We're Blake and Cheryl McAnally. We just moved in on Gramercy next to the community garden, and we're just looking to get more involved in the neighborhood.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, diving into the real stuff. Our safe officer, Albert Sanchez, will give us an update on some private chats from this last month.
Yes, like you said, for those who are new, Officer Albert Sanchez, I'm your safe officer. I have Beacon Hill, Alta Vista, and 5 Points neighborhoods. Let me touch on the crime data real quick. It looks like the thefts did go up quite a bit, about 45% in the neighborhood in the past month, from January 7th actually. And it appears that they're occurring Sunday evenings and then Monday afternoons between 12 and 5. So like I told you before, call it in. If you see something, say something. Even if you think, hey, it's minor, you're not going to worry about it. You never know. It could be somebody that's been stealing bikes, that's been stealing packages off front porches, which is kind of a big thing in this area with all the homeless being so close to downtown.
I'm Sanchez.
Yes, ma'am.
But by doing that, those also count as what you're reporting, right? So when people say call in because they see something, even if it turns out it's a nothing, that gets reported in that data. Is that correct?
With these, it is in the data, but then I tried to look through it, and I kind of take away some of the calls that, hey, nothing came up, there was no case written. So I try to,
So
pick and
even
choose.
at that, we had a significant increase.
Yes, even at that, including those calls, it was a really high number, but of course,
Okay.
not everything was an actual case.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple of websites that we're also gonna try to put on the website. There's if you go to santonio.gov, there's a submit a tip line. And that's just another way to report crime. If you're, tech savvy, you'd rather do it online, not have to call it in. And it's santonio.gov /SAPD /submit a tip. And then the other one that's kind of new to some people, but it's been around for a while, is stopsanantoniogangs.org. That's a website you can go to and you can submit a tip. It looks like there's been an increase in maybe you think there's gangs or even narcotics. That's something that that's a useful tool. She asked me to touch on the narcotics tip line. If you have a couple of houses you think are drug houses, please let me know. Email me, call me, text me, leave a voicemail. But that extension for narcotics, which also helps because it shows that it's coming from the neighborhood, is 210-207-2470. 24/7. Do I have any questions regarding that right now before I get into something else?
On the crime reporting, but I forgot. I'll think of it. I'll put my hand back up.
Yes, sir.
On the uptake of break-ins, are you seeing a certain pattern, like people leaving stuff in their cars or unlocked? or what?
Most of the burglaries was a forced through back door or a garage or shed, which kind of borders some of the alleys in the neighborhood. They're just kind of jumping the fence, it looks like, force their way inside, stealing whatever they could and going. The thefts, it is a lot of Amazon packages on the front porch and just kind of stuff that's left out, pots, plants, kind of crime of opportunity, I think.
I remember.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the reasons we're told to report is because that goes in the numbers and that's how service is sort of allocated.
Yes.
So with that increase, would you anticipate that there would be more patrols in our area?
That's kind of a long term. They kind of do that at the end of the year when the
Okay.
budget comes in. I will tell you that a class just graduated and then another class just got off their rides. So you'll do have about 4 or 5, but it's on the computer, new officers in the area. But then that does take away a couple that left to another area. So it almost balances
Stop
out.
while you're ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Have you had any luck in catching these perpetrators?
Kind of the major ones, I want to say. There was an individual a while back, late last year, who stole a lot of bicycles from this area as well as King William. And through the next door, the ring, he was caught. And he actually has court. I think the property crime detective told me in a couple of months.
He was actually recently sentenced,
Was
but
he?
that was
Is it
based
the
on someone in
same-
King William saying that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because that's pretty fast. I mean, if it was, it would be nice.
Yeah.
But I can double check on that. It's,
Do you have any update on the reports of the rise of gunshots in our neighborhood? Are any of these people being caught?
honestly, no. It's hard to catch somebody who's just going to walk outside their house, shoot their gun, and go back inside. And all
Well,
they're doing is.
I mean, I don't know, is that what they're doing? Because it's just like every day we keep hearing it, and it's just so frustrating.
there's been
I-
an uptick in the
I
last
only
week,
got-
which you wouldn't have the numbers.
Yeah, I only got one in the past month.
One?
Yeah, only one call.
Wow, there's several, from my knowledge, from what we've reported, there's like one every other day.
And sometimes it also matters if it's called in a disturbance with the gun involved, or there's an actual call for gunshots.
When did you pull your data? Like,
What's
because
the
I,
cutoff?
From February 7th to today.
Well, because it's being reported as gunshots.
Okay, and that's, I mean, I'll look into that again, and into the disturbances, and that's up to the dispatcher and the call taker and how they take it.
Unless, am I the only one that has that? Okay, all right,
people are
thank you.
saying on social media, did you call? Yes, I called, you know, so, but as you said, the dispatcher. may-
When you call, you can ask for a CFS number, which is an incident number that's assigned to every call.
Okay, well, maybe we need to start telling
Yeah.
people to do that, because
Yeah.
that's incorrect information that you're receiving. And for our next meeting, I would really like that information
Okay.
from you, because
Right
this
there.
is getting really out of hand.
And when I did look up, there was no assaults involving a gun.
Wow.
It,
Something's going on, just, that's my opinion, and from the people I'm talking to, they are reporting it, but now they need to do more and get more information. Because when I go and report this to those people, and I'm gonna tell them what you told me, that you've only got one report of one gunshot, they're gonna tell me stuff, and I'm gonna say, don't tell me.
boy, and instead of us waiting for the next meeting, do you have my number? Do you want to call me or
I'll
text,
talk to you
text
after.
me?
Yeah.
Just so I can
Okay,
get that by tomorrow
okay,
and look into it.
all right.
Any other questions? As far as some of the code issues, of course, they're going to touch on that. Yeah, he said he would touch on as far as the appeals on 945 West Lowellwood and how many days he has. So he said he'll be touching on that. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I asked you briefly, but, so I think there are a number of these, but I know you have one particular house that's definitely like a meth house. Whether they're making it there, I don't know, but I know a neighbor across the street who says people line up outside from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., walking out with white baggies and stuff, and, you know, throwing rocks up at the window to get you guys' attention. So the neighbors have called, they've got some video now, and they're frustrated about what is the step they should take to actually get more of an investigation instead of just sort of calls for service, like, it doesn't seem like maybe there is something happening.
Like I said, you can email me, and what I do is I forward it to the individual, the guy in narcotics.
Okay,
And they pretty much have a list, and they go down to all the houses, and they just sit on the house for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
okay.
But calling that number, it shows that, hey, this isn't just an officer telling me, okay, hey,
The
go
narcotics.
be in my area,
The
yes.
narcotics number you.
Yes, 207-2470.
24/7.
All of that helps.
So they should be doing that in addition to like when there's an actual disturbance. Like calling 911 is not really.
Well, I like them calling because it puts that number on that house.
Okay.
So let's say 810 West Russell, just a house that, so if that's called for that house, not the intersection of Russell and Florida is Russell, and, you know, that house, it's gonna show me that, hey, all these calls, so if it comes to a code issue, a dog issue, a dangerous premises issue, when they pull those calls, it shows that, hey, this is what's going on, so that helps.
So kind of hid it in from all sides. I only found
Yes.
out about it yesterday,
Yeah, yes.
so I want to help them now because they're.
Yes, that's kind of something just to hit from, give it to narcotics, give it to myself, emails, just so, and we have that paper trail of what's going on.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, thank you.
We do have a couple officers from code compliance, touch base, and see if you have any questions.
Thanks. My name is Martin Lee. I'm with Code Enforcement. I'm a dangerous premise officer in District 1. Relatively new to this particular area. And so this is my first time at your meeting. I thank you all for having me. Yes, sir.
So are you a new, did we get a new one?
Pardon me?
Are you a new officer?
I am a new dangerous premise officer.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. What was your name?
You'll still have your regular
Oh,
area officer.
What was the name?
I'm Marvin Lee.
Martin Lee. Martin.
Like Lee Marvin. Of course, he was backwards.
Okay, thank you.
I was speaking with the officer regarding 945 Lowell. I didn't particularly handle that case. That was a case that was handled by one of the other dangerous premise officers. They had a DART, which is a dangerous area response team, that actually made that location, and they kind of work in coordination with the police department, ACS, and other agencies when it comes to some particular location, depending on the number of calls. Like you were saying, if you have so many calls to a location from 911, it kind of puts it on the radar for the dangerous area response team. And I was reading your newsletter here, and they actually have a very, very good write-up in here in regards to what went on at the hearing. They do have 120 days to get the place in compliance as it relates to the orders from the Building Standards Board. We don't normally get involved in that too much, other than the fact that the officer will be checking to make sure they pull the proper permits and that they're timely in regards to their repairs. I noticed in there it stated something to the fact that they were supposed to fence the area within, I guess what they call immediately. And I believe one of the questions that I've had from a few citizens, I've had a few calls regarding that property. Well, no, actually, I was calling about another property. But one of the concerns is what happens if they don't comply? Is that, I'm sure that's probably everybody's concern here. What happens is most often we can go and file a case for not abiding by the Building Standards Board orders. That's usually what occurs after that point if they don't come into compliance. So that I wanted to give you an update on that. But again, I wanted to say hello, introduce myself, and let you guys know that I am the new dangerous premise officer in the area. Do you guys have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
I want to report to you something that appears to be a violation.
Okay.
You may want to jot this down.
Okay.
The address is 808.
Well, what type of violation are you speaking of? I generally handle vacant structures, but go ahead, 808.
808 West Mulberry.
Mhm.
This is a house that's under major renovations, but
Is it vacant or is it occupied?
right now it's vacant.
Okay.
Major renovations, but it's doing such extensive renovations, I think it maybe it appears to be in violation of our neighborhood conservation.
NCD?
NCD thing. It appears that they're trying to make several partitions out of the house for as a rooming house of sorts. And I think that's going to be outside the purview, outside the allowance allowed by the NCD.
Understood. There are specific rules as it relates to NCDs, and what I'll do is I'll verify, number one, if they have permits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they have permits for some operations there, but the idea is to check and see just exactly what exactly
Well,
they're doing.
but the first part is, I'm gonna verify if they have permits, what the scope of work is, and if in fact, if it falls within the NCD.
Oh, of course, yeah. I called this in one time about a month or two ago. I don't know, I just left a message, I don't know if anybody did anything about it, but the idea is to verify what's going on here. Because I'm a member of the Zoning and Urban Design Committee.
Yes.
And that's one issue we looked at, and we decided it's time to alert you guys to it, so you can check it out yourself and be confirmed one way or the other what exactly is going on with it.
Now, one thing I will make you aware of is that we have recently launched what we call a strike team. Are you familiar with that?
I heard of it.
What the strike team is basically looking for, and they work 7 days a week, is we're getting a lot of flippers that are coming in, and they're taking properties and trying to renovate them real quick and flip them. And a lot of times they don't pull the proper permits or adhere to the NCD.
Yes.
So in that particular situation, depending on the scope of the work, I may touch base with the strike team to assist in that matter. But I'll take a look at that one there for you.
Yeah.
The issue can also be they pulled permits, but they're working outside the permit.
I'm sorry?
The issue can also be they pulled permits, but they're working
Working outside the scope of it.
outside.
And that happens quite often, yes. We're aware of that, yes, ma'am.
Please do a comprehensive investigation about it.
Okay. Okay. I will,
As much as you can.
yes, sir. I will do so. Okay.
I just wanted to follow up a little bit on the 945 West Lowwood. I spoke with the code enforcement officer, Ramiro Guerra,
Yes.
this morning. He is in almost daily contact with the owner. They were asked to put that fence, or told to put that fence up immediately, but they are working on it. They were supposed to meet with the contractor today, so hopefully that happens. You know, it's frustrating when you hear that somebody has to do something immediately and they don't, but it's also, you have to be a little bit realistic in thinking, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna arrest the old lady? And then the fence doesn't go up anyway. So they know she's working on it. She's got family trying to help her, so we're on it. People are following up on it constantly, so it'll take its time, but really, given how difficult some of these processes are, we're doing very well, having gotten as far as we have. And that's due to a lot of the interaction and involvement by people, so we appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do y'all mainly deal with the pulling of permits and if they're done right, or abandoned houses?
For dangerous premise officers, we generally deal with substandard houses,
Yeah.
mostly vacant,
Okay, yeah.
primarily vacant, yes.
Yeah, because we have one on Summit and Michigan.
I believe I was at that one today. There's a work order there for a couple other things right now.
Yeah.
And I did notice that it's in very, very poor condition.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one that's,
Well, that is falling down.
There'll be more to come on that one.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah. I actually have a hearing that I'm preparing for on this Thursday, and then one the following Thursday, so it's been quite busy.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions?
When y'all turn something on this, I'm hard to reach, but maybe can y'all, is there somebody?
Well, I'm gonna give you my card, so you can check with me. Because I'm only gonna go so far in the scope of it. I may give it to the strike team,
Okay.
because I have other cases that are pending as well.
Sure.
And if it gets beyond my purview, then I'll have to make sure they follow up on all the permits and so forth.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Castellano?
Yeah, we're ready.
Next up, we have a presentation. Y'all may or may not know, there's a major project coming for Fred Road. Mysterious reconfigurations to how that is set up. Mr. Castellanos with TCI, the Transportation Capital Improvements Department, and he's going to give us some background on that. And just for a little extra visual aid, later after the meeting, we can take a look at this map over here, lays it out on a scale, you can actually see what's going on. Oh, yeah.
Okay, again, my name is Richard Castellanos. I'm Capital Projects Officer for this project. It's a 2017 bond project for the Fredericksburg Road corridor from Woodlawn to North Flores. It's actually tying in with the 5 Points project. I got a slide here that shows where they connect. But again, I was asked by Mr. Upland to come in, and we've already had a couple of planning meetings for this project, and we had the neighborhood show up. We had a good turnout, and then we've had one project meeting after those planning meetings to show what we had come up with, and tonight I'm going to show that again to whoever was. Some of y'all might have made it to the meeting, the public meeting, but I was asked to come here, for the folks that weren't able to make that meeting. We don't need to go through all that. The design team is Eric Salazar, Rogelio, Emilio. He's actually here. Emilio Rodriguez, the engineer, part of the engineering team for this project, and myself. We'll be here to answer any of your questions once we're done with this presentation. Like I said, we had our planning meetings with the neighborhood. We had 2 of them. The first one took all the input that we gathered. A lot of the things that people were bringing up to us to look at was safety concerns, pedestrian mobility, bike lanes. They had some draining concerns, parking, and about economic revitalization in the neighborhood to help the businesses in the neighborhood. So the project limits, again, it's from South Flores to Woodlawn. And this is the current conditions that we have out there. You have 4 lanes in each directions. You have buildings on each side, so you're limited to what you can do out here. You can't tear down all these buildings because that's what you're trying to help the businesses out here. So you're in a confined area to try and make it pedestrian friendly, bike mobility friendly, still keep the motorists out here, and have the via transportation be able to run up and down the corridor. So we have a lot of things going on here in a small area that we're trying to come up with a design with. This is just some pictures that we took of the existing conditions out there. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the existing conditions. So we came up with a scope after these planning meetings that we're going to curb, sidewalks, driveway approaches. Of course, if you reconfigure any of the traffic lanes, you got to upgrade the signals, the pedestrian crossings, like I said, lane reconfiguration, bike lanes, on-street parking, and bus pullouts, bus stops. Try to work with that. All that into this project to upgrade it, to make it better, safety-wise better. And again, this is showing the 5 Points project right here, and this project is tying right into it. The 5 Points projects will probably go into construction first. Everything's already been ironed out and settled with that one. It should be going into construction here in the near future. So we originally were hoping to get them both to go in at the same time, but the Fredericksburg Road project is lagging behind a little bit. So again, here's the beginning of the project at the 5 Points to North Calabria, showing the lane reconfiguration here. You have the 2 lanes coming in, and you have the bicycle paths in there. the green, and the yellow is medians to help keep the traffic in line with turning movements, things like that.
As a point of reference, where is 5 points in that picture?
That was the first thing I showed you, this part over here on this side I had pointed to. This is the 5 points area. And then it's the 5 points Flores, and then that next street over here is Culebra. So we're working north now,
Oh,
okay? And then we got, again, North Flores to Culebra, this is a little bit more in the area that we're adding the bicycle lanes to, and sidewalks and things like that. Again, we're showing the turning movement. You have the bike lanes, and you have 1 lane in each direction. And you have the concrete medians there at the railroad tracks. Culebra is over here, and the railroad tracks is over here. So those grade, this grade in the middle there, those are the concrete medians that you have as you approach the railroad to keep people from going around. And again, this is showing the 1 lane in each direction now that you have the bicycle lanes, and you're adding the sidewalks. And since you have 1 lane, here's one of the first bump outs for the buses that we're proposing. We're still in negotiation with VIA on that. But that's what we're looking at. If you change it to where you're making the sidewalks bigger and you're adding the bicycle lanes, you're giving up the outer lanes. So now you have 1 lane in each direction. Well, if a bus is in that 1 lane and they're stopping and unloading or loading, traffic stops till he gets going. So what we're proposing is these bus pullouts, so that they can get off the roadway and the traffic can still flow. So that's what we're proposing, but again, that, like I said, that's still in negotiation with VIA. And this is the railroad to Princeton. Again, you know, we're showing the turning movements, but we're also showing it at the intersection here, some of the additional concrete median to where you have coming off of Sandoval, and the streets don't go perpendicular, as everybody's aware out here. You have these angled streets, and in order to make it safer for the bikes that we're promoting to be out here in bike lanes, the sidewalks that we're adding out here, rebuilding, making larger for pedestrians. You also want to make it safer for the public. So we're modifying the turning movement at these streets to where you have a right in and a right out. If you're traveling north on Fredericksburg and you want to go out to Sandoval, you can turn right and come this way. But if you're on Sandoval, you're going to only be able to go to the right, because if you're going to be coming this way, it's just, you have a lot more pedestrian, bicycle movement. So it's a safety reason for doing that the engineers designed. What happened? This is a slide there. Okay, Princeton to Hickman, it's the same situation again. You have 1 lane each direction. The bicycle lanes, and again the turning movement with the medians, you have the concrete medians. Here's Colorado Street right here, Blanco Road. Try to help you all there a little bit where we're getting to. And
how do the buses get back into the flow of traffic from the bump out?
Well, once there's a break in traffic, they get in. They pull out. They pull in, they unload. If there's a lot of traffic. No. You just go straight out. They're long enough to where they can pull in and then pull out. They don't have to back up or anything like that. And they just wait for an opening in traffic. There's always going to be, an opening. He might have to wait, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 5 seconds, who knows. But, there'll be a time when there'll be a break in traffic for him to move out. So again, this is University of Cincinnati. This is where the bike lanes end. On Cincinnati, going all the way to Woodlawn Lake and heading up north, you have existing bike lanes there. So what we're proposing is for the bike lanes that come through downtown, you hit, like I said, everybody's been on South Flores. You see all those bicycle lanes that are over there, those green painted lanes and stuff. This connects up with all that. And here in Cincinnati, the bicycle lanes keep heading north. So that's what we're proposing the bike route to go, to go on to Cincinnati. Because now you're moving north on Fredericksburg Road. You don't have bicycle lanes north of I-10. You don't have that. So we're going to be sending them into nothing, which normally we would if we didn't have Cincinnati. But we have Cincinnati that already has bicycle lanes, so that's what we're directing them to use to keep heading north. They're not limited to that. I mean, they can, just like anywhere else, a bike rider can ride their bike. But that's the bicycle lanes that we're using existing, because we're not ready to change everything north. Maybe in the future, in future projects, I don't know of any, but at that time, we'll work with the bicycle lanes to keep them on Fredericksburg Road. But we don't have that at this time, so this is the option that we're going with. So with that, as you get north of Cincinnati, you start having the on-street parking, because now you don't have the bicycle lanes. So you have additional area in the street. So you still have the sidewalks, which are the brown, and now you have the on-street parking. A lot of the businesses out there, you have the head-in parking, but if you widen the sidewalks, the cars are going to be blocking the sidewalks. So what's the point of having the sidewalks if people are going to have to walk into the street to go around cars? So we're providing on-street parking so that they can still park and go to the business, but now you have pedestrian traffic that can go to the business also. So it provides two options a person is going to have in order to get around the corridor. And that's going to be for the rest of the project heading north. So the same configurations as far as the lane movement. We're still proposing the same on-street parking, single one lane in each direction. And we're stopping at Russell because at Woodlawn is where we're going to start to transition. You can't just come up to an intersection and all of a sudden it's changed. You have to have a time, an area that you can transition from the 4 lanes, which is from Woodlawn north, and then coming into this corridor area. So the transition point is from Woodlawn to Russell. And again, this is just pointing out, south of Cincinnati, you have the lanes with the bike lanes. North of Cincinnati, you have the 2 lanes with the on-street parking. And again, this is showing the typical sections for the project, showing you have the sidewalk, you have the bicycle lanes, the travel lanes, little turning movement, and again, the same thing on the other side. Over there, you have the bicycle lanes, you have the parking, and then you have the 2 lanes, and then the sidewalk on the other side. The project budget, $8 million, that hasn't changed. The project schedule has changed because we're still in negotiations with VIA. We're still looking at design options for the bump outs and for other things. We moved it to design finishing, I think it was in April, but now we're changing it to December. and for construction to start April of 2021 and finish in March of 2023. And there's my information. If after the meeting you have any questions, you want to email me, there's my information. I can also hand out some cards if you come up to me after the meeting. Be happy to give you my card if you have any questions afterwards. Again, like Mr. Hubling said, we'll have the road plot here tonight. So after they're done with the meeting, y'all are welcome to get up and look at the plot. And, you know, if you have any questions now, I'll be happy to answer them. After the meeting, we'll stay and answer any questions after you look at it. Yes, Mr. Figueroa.
When I think of improvements, I think of things that make things a little easier compared to what you have currently. But having wider sidewalks, that's fine. Left turn lanes are fine to a point, curbs and so forth, but even bicycle lanes, if there's room for it, are fine. But you're reducing 4 traffic lanes all the way down to 2. Do you realize the major traffic jams and snarls you're going to have with this one lane going one direction and one lane going the other? You say you're going to have left turn lanes and I'm there to tell you that it's very left-turning vehicles aren't all that predominant on Frederick Road. And it's taken care of by the current 2 lanes going in one particular direction. And bicyclists already have the right to travel on any lane they want to. By law, we, the voters, are required to give them a good 3 feet of clearance. But now, with this right here, you're placing a major difficulty, a major problem for us, the motorists, to, as we try to get from one point to another, either north to south or south to north on Frederick Road, just above the downtown area. I see a major design flaw with this, thereby causing major frustration for all of us, the drivers who want to travel down here, and make us want to just avoid the whole area altogether and just take our business elsewhere to the northern part of town. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
I think my sentiment is probably predominant for many people, especially after all is said and done, and they finally see this suddenly happening, and by then it's too late. You know, I would encourage you to put those both vehicle lanes back into place there. So.
Thank you.
So you had mentioned that you were in negotiations with VIA. What does that process look like? And is there ever a chance that VIA would say, well, we don't want the bus pull-offs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People at a higher level than myself are negotiating that. The project managers for VIA, management for VIA, and management for the city, traffic engineers and the project manager. And yes, the VIA could say that they didn't want it because, like I was talking with a lady earlier before the meeting, they might think that once the bus pulls in, that it's not going to be able to get out because there's going to be constant traffic. But we all know that there's always going to be a time when there's going to be an opening to merge back in. Right. You know, or otherwise, if that's the case, how would people be able to park? You know, now how would people be able to pull out from the businesses that are here if there was never an opening?
Yeah.
So there are openings, but yes, like anybody, you know, they could say, I don't want this. Yeah. You know, and I don't. These are my buses, and this is not what I want.
I guess I'm curious mainly because I think that's one of the stronger parts of the plan. And my worries is what is the fallback what are we falling back to if those bus pull-offs aren't part of the deal?
That's what they're looking at in design. We don't have anything concrete to present yet. That's why we pushed it to December, so that we can have more public meetings as we come up with more design changes. If we come up with more design changes, or we don't, whatever it is, we pushed it back so that we can get the finalized version of the project, and then we can present it to the public. We can come back here. There's a couple other neighborhood associations that I've presented this to, besides the public meetings that we have, that we invite everybody.
Sure.
So, that's the process. Yes, ma'am.
So, who's wanting the changes? Why is this coming about?
Well, again, like I said, a lot of these things that we're adding, the bicycle lanes, the wire sidewalks, our planning department put on 2 public meetings. One, to gather input, and some of the folks were here at those planning meetings, but I want to say there was maybe about 30 to 40 people, maybe, that came, and those where we had got that input. Some of the planning department, some of that input came through them with meetings that they've had with the neighborhood. So it's coming from the public for that, but also the city as a whole. You have, what's it called, Vision Zero for the safety. I know you're talking about the motorists, but we're also looking at the pedestrians with the wider sidewalks. A lot of the locals that use this, use the businesses that frequent these businesses, you know, they'll be able to walk to the businesses, they'll be able to bike to the businesses rather than using their vehicles, so you'll have a little bit less vehicle traffic. But Vision Zero, and Emilio, what is that other term that the city's using as their policy to reduce increase pedestrian safety? And there's another name for, other than Vision Zero? Well, that right now there's a big push to bring in safety measures for pedestrians and bicyclists. There's a big push for that. And that's where a lot of this is coming from. That's why you have a lot of those concrete medians in the middle to keep traffic from going across the way in unsafe areas.
This is
Hold
the
on,
first
Jack.
time I've heard of this.
So these are protected.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. She wasn't finished yet, ma'am? I'm sorry, you weren't finished yet?
It's just, this is the first I hear of it tonight, it just kind of caught me by surprise. I'm not entirely, I guess, sold on the whole project, but I mean, I guess I gotta look at it a little bit closer. And,
There's a slide you had, Richard, it was called pre-designed public meetings. It kind of summarizes what we learned from those 2 public meetings that we had back in early 2018.
So I'm gonna be quick. You said this is safety, so the bike lanes are protected then? These are protected bike lanes?
No, we're putting them in an area that they're like everywhere else where the bicycle lanes.
So the answer, I want to be succinct. The answer is no.
You're talking about having a curb?
Are the bike lanes protected?
No.
So then it's not about safety?
It's not. That's the whole point.
That was it, thank you.
Okay.
So I want to just quick add something. I'm Cosima, I'm with the Neighborhood Association, and in 2015, that we had the Fredericksburg Road Economic Development Committee, and we had a couple of community meetings that many of the residents from the Beacon Hill neighborhood, along with businesses along the corridor, and residents also from the St. Anne's neighborhood participated in. We took a survey at that time of what people wanted to see on the corridor. And number 1 was the retention of historic and preservation of historic buildings. And then it was about pedestrian, walkability, bikeability, traffic flow, trying to slow the traffic flow, and be able to revitalize the corridor. So from that input, we then developed a package to advocate for bond money so that we could get this project done. That was a 2-year process, and we put together a PowerPoint, we met with the council person, we went to bond committee meetings, and it was actually only at the 11th hour that our project was added to that bond, actually at the dais at City Council. So this was something that the neighborhood worked on since about 2015. So just so that there's some history, even before what they did for public input, the whole reason we went for the money was based on what we had talked about as a community.
And those are the community meetings that I was speaking of with the other departments, the planning department, that I don't participate in. Our department, our group, our TCI, the Eric and that team, we're given a project to build with the bonds so we just take it when it's ready to go to design, so we can do all the nitty-gritty plans that the contractors bid on, so they can bid on, so they can build it. So I'm sorry I'm glad you were here to answer that history on the project, because I didn't have that. I'm not privy to that information.
What's the percentage of completion on the design?
Right now, we're between 40 and 70%. At the meeting,
construction.
The design. To go to construction, you have to be at 100%, right? When we had our public meeting to present what I presented with you tonight, we were at 40%. So we're between 40 and 70%. We haven't got to the 70%.
So in December 2020, that'd be like the end of design development?
That would be it. We have 100% completion in design.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the city also pushing to get people out of cars and more into walking and biking and taking mass transit?
Yeah.
And isn't there backing of this partly, not just for safety, but partly due to that push to get people out of cars?
I've heard of it. I'm not part of that push from the city. Like I said, we just build these projects, but I have heard that, yes. They're trying to get it more pedestrian use to limit the traffic, because we're just getting a crazy amount of traffic. Yes, sir.
Sidewalks, they're not wide enough already? You already have them?
I think I was sliding.
The UEC for this type of road, the UEC wants will specifies a 6-foot sidewalk, and right now you have about maybe 5 at most in some cases.
Some cases you see they have the traffic pole right in the
They
middle.
go up about
and you can't-
445.
if you're
4.5 to 5 feet
there's no
sidewalk with
way
some
you
means.
can-
So they're
Well,
undersized.
the reason I asked that, if this were New York City, you have throngs of pedestrians going up and down the sidewalks, I can understand where you would need a 6-foot sidewalk. But you just don't have that much sidewalk traffic right now where you need to extend it that much further. And that could be, that little foot or two could be crucial and helping give the flexibility for some of the other desires that the neighborhood has. So yeah, I would say we don't need to improve the width of the sidewalks.
Well, the only thing I can give you an answer is, I guess the folks that went to those 2 planning meetings, differ in your opinion, and then the folks that did the 2 years, 3 years of planning that she was talking about differ from your opinion. So everybody has an opinion, everybody has a want and a need. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to speak to that, just in terms of designing stuff. We might want that many pedestrians, and so we have to build for what we want, and we want walkable neighborhoods, and we want retail to be at a walkable level, and so looking at the pedestrian traffic now isn't necessarily why the decision might be made to widen sidewalks.
If you build it, they'll come.
That's my hope.
I think that I'm actually like what you were saying. That's the city is trying to promote more pedestrian and bicycle, especially in the downtown area. Especially in the downtown area. Yes, ma'am.
And to your point, the reason why they're doing all this and they're pushing people out of their cars, I know people are very comfortable in their vehicles. San Antonio is predicting that we're going to have a huge population surge within the next few years. And so if we have public transportation that's running fluid through our neighborhoods and stuff, then it helps us not have such a city that's traffic jam. Like, everyone hates the 5 o'clock traffic jam in San Antonio, right? Well, with this improvement, this could possibly help us get more flow through our city, so we're not stressed 10 years from now, just like, what's going on?
Trying to get more people to use the mass
Exactly.
transit.
We're just trying to
If
like.
you're coming into
pursue the
downtown.
future And understand that
And
there's
let-
more people coming that have cars.
Right. The local people, you're more likely to use your cars to get around in your neighborhood. But the ones that are coming in and out from other parts of town, you're trying to promote the mass transit. So, there's, like I told you, John, I mean, there's, you can't please everybody. This is where we're at. Any other questions? Again, Mr. Hubbard asked if we leave this here. If anybody want to take a look at it, I'll be here to answer any other questions or take any questions with me if I can't answer them. Thank you.
One last time, so we are going to the 70% design. After we're done with the 70% design, our intentions are to come back to the public and have another public meeting. So if you see a concern, you have Mr. Castellanos' information. He knows how to reach out to us and we can address it.
So the people that live along that area, has a survey gone out? I mean, are they aware of the changes? Was it a petition done? For example, there might be a park and a little neighborhood area, and there might be a neighborhood association wanting an entrance to a park through that particular neighborhood, and then it's about to happen, and then all of a sudden somebody from that particular neighborhood goes, hey, we don't want all this traffic going through our area. Why didn't anybody come speak to us? Do the people in that general area know? That's my question.
So when Castellanos, you invite the people.
Well, to answer that question, like the HOAs, they got together back in 2015, I'm sure we're communicating with the residents in the area. When we had the planning meetings, the corridor, we invited everyone in this area all the way up to, I think it was Hildebrand, San Pedro, to just on the other side of I-10. I can't remember the name of the street. We did the whole corridor, invites to both planning meetings and the 40% meeting. We invited everyone to come to it. The HOAs are well aware of it. Mr. Hubling, that's why they invited me to come. So, as much as we can, other than knocking and going door to door, that we don't have the manpower to do to take a survey of what people would like.
Were flyers distributed from the department?
Like when we did the community meeting, we flyered throughout the neighborhood. We had a notice that ran in the bulletin for the church to make sure that folks that from the parish, were invited. And also, we worked with Beacon Hill Elementary to get word out to their parents and families. So for the portion that the neighborhood association did, we had things in our newsletter to encourage people to attend. We had 2 meetings also. And then what the city does, they had one of those traffic signs on the corridor before the meeting. They also advertised in the church bulletin again because they had the meeting at the parish. So, it was pretty, believe me, outreach is what I'm most concerned with, and we did as best we could, I think.
It was well advertised. I mean, I attended that meeting you talked about. It was well advertised.
And I've lived in Beacon Hill on and off, so during that process, I did not live in Beacon Hill, and I moved back to Beacon Hill about maybe 2 years ago. So that's why I'm kind of like going like, whoa, what's going on here?
Sure.
So sorry that I'm just barely catching up.
And I'd be happy to get you some of the information. Like, we have a video. I'll send you the link to the video of the community meeting. Maybe we can put that up on the website, or I'll post it on Facebook. So we actually have a YouTube video of the community meeting. So I'll put that out for folks.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because we'll kind of do the same thing for those traffic message boards.
Okay, good.
So just, they would usually put them by the Exxon at Woodlawn and Fredericksburg, and then one at Blanco and Fredericksburg. So that one's for northbound traffic, and the one in Exxon's for the southbound traffic. So be on the lookout for those message boards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fiesta Metals. Not a lot of great news on Fiesta Metals. I'll start with the lesser news first. Sales have been down this year from last year. We have been doing some sales, but we had at this time last year we had sold about twice as many as we have so far this year. So if you haven't bought your Fiesta Metals, get your order in back.
Any way you can advertise it more, just not in Beacon Hill, but more generally around San Antonio? I would share your post as your text number, and I don't want to share your text number outside of a protected,
It's fine. The challenge with that is we don't physically have them yet, so people will they'll know us and trust us, and he'll speak to that part. But once we have them, there are opportunities to do that, or there may not be.
Here's the worst news, and I'm not going to be a big surprise to much of anyone, is that we're not sure when we're going to get the metals. In the past, it would have been about the end of this week, middle of March is when they came in. But for reasons I don't think to have to belabor, there's not much manufacturing going on in China right now. So until the factories get back up to speed, we don't know when those metals are going to come in. Not just ours, the whole city.
Yeah, the Business Journal did a story about it, the Express News.
So at the same time that I'm saying, please buy some metals, I don't know when I'm going to have those metals. So, that's a little change.
Describe the metal that you're building. I think it's describe more.
It's the main elements. The metal this year is the columns that we have on Blanco. It's sort of like iconic symbols. Well, not just kind of, but it is the emblem of the neighborhood. It's those columns which are 101 years old. No, 111? Yeah, last year was 110, so it's 111 years old. Yeah, I think pretty much everyone sees those, recognizes those. Maybe have no idea where they came from, what they originally were. So, and then I can't help it, I've got to have a little bit. Maybe next year it's not the animal thing, and this was designed by a resident of San Antonio, Stephanie Phillips, and with a little tweaking help from another artist resident. So it's all homegrown.
That speaks very good. Good job.
So that's, I can believe that, but you can buy some metals that I'll get to someday. That's for that.
So I can share it outside of.
Yeah, I know you can share as much as you want.
Just as a note, say we don't know when.
I just figured, it's such a neighborhood thing. Though I have had people buy them outside the neighborhood.
Yeah, there are people who just like them,
people
yeah.
outside the state who want them. So yeah, I've really special one.
What's the price per metal again?
For the current years, it's $10 a metal, and we do have metals from past years, and those are $5 a piece.
Okay.
Let's say I have, if you want to do something nice, I have a sign-up sheet. You can get your information. You can also go to the Beacon Hill websites and order there through PayPal. Get into committee chairs. Diana, you want to talk about the treasurer's report?
Yeah, just real quick. You saw the treasurer's report in this first newsletter. So you have a little over $8,100 at the end of February. So we had revenue primarily from two sources: the metal sales, about 300, and then the benevolent fund, we had a reimbursement of unused monies for the buying families a Christmas gift that they do every year. We have a little bit left over, so that's what's in that deposit side. In addition to, we had revenue from my husband volunteering to paint the sidewalks with the addresses, so keep those coming. So he's still.
Oh, thank you. He does a good job.
Some of them he's finding that they're too small to paint. So sometimes people have gotten a little upset, I will say. But anyway, it is what it is. So thank you.
I wanted to get ours done, but they just repaid the streets, so now.
Okay.
I'll do a little follow-up report about part of the neighborhood. We had our second neighborhood movie nights this last Saturday night. Not as highly attended as I would have hoped, but there was a good crowd out there. Some people, we had some neighbors supply some nachos for us since we were showing Nacho Libre. It was good. I think definitely we're getting rolling, so we'll be doing more of those. I think we could probably do a couple more of the coast the rest of the summer.
Okay. Kim Hubling, I'm going to step in for Mrs. Eller. If you come to these meetings, you know that she is always here, and she is not able to come tonight. She had some car issues, and she's also working really hard to get ready for the Easter egg hunts, and so I'm going to do my best to speak on her behalf. So there are going to be, and this is confusing, you're right, Rose. So Beacon Hill every year, and Mrs. Eller's benevolent fund does 2 totally separate Easter egg hunt events, and so one is for Cotton Elementary. That date that's in the newsletter, I'm not even going to point you to it because there's been some changes with Cotton. So if you have children at Cotton, the Easter egg hunt is going to be April 6th, and it got shifted due to, I think, star testing or something like that. And so those hunts will be sometime between 8 and 10 a.m. They'll get all the kids of appropriate age out and do the Easter egg hunt. So if you are a parent or you just want to volunteer, on April 6th, you can go to the school. You need to get there by about 7:45 to sign in and tell them why you're there, and they'll shepherd you to wherever the Easter egg hunt is. In the meantime, before then, if you want to help Mrs. Eller with all things related to this, which is stuffing candy into eggs, you guys might know more than anybody. She's home taping eggs right now, and she works so hard on this. Her contact info is on the back of the newsletter, Lucy Eller, and her benevolent fund, so you can give her a call. She also accepts donations all year round for this and other events, and school supplies and food for kids. So that is the Cotton Hunt, and then the public Beacon Hill Children event is Saturday, April 11th. Everyone is welcome. I have no children and I go. I think it's like the best thing that we do. It's a wonderful event. So the way we set it up is that everyone gets there at 11. We actually have an Easter bunny who will be there. Takes the kids on a little jaunt through the community garden. This is being held at the corner of Capitol and Gramercy, which is right near the community garden. It's across Gramercy. It's the little children's park. And so 11:15, when we do 2 hunts, we'll do one at 11:15, and then we do one about 45 minutes later to give the stragglers a chance, everyone's not there in time. So volunteers are also needed for that. It's a lot of fun to hide eggs and watch the kids run around. So reach out to Mrs. Eller, or even just show up on that date on Saturday and we'll give you something to do. So. Okay. Now, I am going to be animal care chair.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah.
You didn't put this out.
I know. Okay, so anyone who follows the social media for the neighborhood, Facebook is the most active social media we have. There have been an insane number of loose dog attacks just in the last 2 weeks, and pretty serious events. Not that this matters because we're all equal in the neighborhood, but 2 of our board members in the last week got attacked, including Michael here got bitten yesterday. And most of these dogs are owned. They're not strays. They're owned. They're not being contained properly. And so the challenge is educating people. Some people do not care to be. And so what we all need to do really is, if you see a dog that is often unrestrained and you know where it is, just know where it lives, just go ahead and report it just as much as you can. If ACS comes and the dog is at home, they're not going to be able to do anything. But it's good to just get those reports in there, because these owners need to be held accountable before something really bad happens, which we're starting to see that. So if you've had an incident of your own, or you know somebody who has, because a lot of these don't get reported. I was talking to a neighbor the other day. I know of 5 in the last week. Some against people, I'm serious. 2 were against, like, a dog got loose and attacked someone else's dog that was walking. If you know of, and not all of those were reported. So if you know of any, my contact is on the back as well, Kim Hubling. Send me the info. I'm going to start compiling as much info as I can and try to raise a ruckus with ACS and with council, I don't know, but, hello, Zanel. It's escalating, and so, we all need to work together, and, if you know of anything, that might help.
Yes, I second that.
Yes.
And I want to say on that is one of the reasons, one of the few things I have a problem with Beacon Hill, because I did get bitten a while back by a pit bull, and it's not the first time I've been bitten. And I'm afraid to walk in my own neighborhood, which it's a crime, it's a shame that I can't walk in my own neighborhood because I'm afraid of loose dogs, and I'm not the only one. A lot of people are starting to express that.
Absolutely with you. And if you walk in the neighborhood, you will start to notice people who are walking dogs. A lot of them have walking sticks. They don't have them because they need them. They have them because of the dogs. And to be honest, I'm recommending that people do that. Either have a spray or have a stick. And it's terrible that that's where we are, but we'll protect ourselves first, and then we'll work on.
It doesn't help with the fear.
No.
If you become fearful because of incidents, a stick is not going to help with the fear.
You're right.
It's psychological.
Sure. And not walking is a choice as well, but it's a terrible choice. So. I wish I had better plan in place, but I'm gonna do what I can. So.
And I wanted to ask you really quick.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that our office will likely follow up with. So I want to sit down with the Don, see what can we do to actually address that.
Okay.
It is a Don Perez for your area.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll follow up with them, and I'll include you on that.
Okay, sounds good. And it's only yesterday that Michael got bitten. It's been a number, and so
it's almost every week.
It has. So my plan was to email you and Adon and sort of start the conversation.
Okay. Well, I'll wait on that. But
yeah. So I appreciate you speaking.
Of course, the bigger problem is the loose dogs.
Right.
If they were not on the street, there wouldn't be any fights.
Right, and most of, as I said, I really think most of those belong to people. But I do want to also, I do, the people don't keep them contained.
That's the big problem.
It is, yeah. But I do want to try and push ACS to possibly do some sweeps, because we had a pack about 10 days ago that attacked somebody, and we think there was a female in heat that was being chased, and as they run through the neighborhood, any other stray dog is going to join that party. And so anyway, sorry that was long, but it's been kind of a big deal, so thanks y'all.
Oh God, it's late and everybody's ready to go, and I'm the boring stuff. So I just for transparency purposes, we wanted to bring this to y'all's attention. We have a Board of Adjustment case coming up next Monday, March 16th, regarding the new development on the corner of Magnolia and Grand. So the request by the developer is a variance to our NCD design standards to allow for square windows and windows without the required 1/1 light division. And you'll see some examples of that in a minute. So just why does it matter? In 2004 and 2005, the Beacon Hill neighborhood, and I wasn't here then, put in hundreds of volunteer hours, meeting with the city. John Merson was a big part of that, to come together to, first of all, become a neighborhood conservation district, and then to come up with design standards for our neighborhood based on the architecture that's in place and what we wanted to maintain as a neighborhood. And this process ends up with City Council adopting it, and it becomes part of the Unified Development Code, and it is legally binding. It's not just a wish list, okay? In 2016 and 17, we went back and we reviewed it because development had changed, designs were changing, we needed to update some things. And one of the specific changes we made was to require that all street-facing window have the 2:1 dimension, so 2 times longer than wider, and a 1/1 light division, so you have a pane of glass, a division, and another pane of glass. Uh-oh. Okay. So in 2017, the neighborhood did support a request by this developer to rezone the property, which allowed him to build 2 houses facing Magnolia and 2 houses facing Grand. So it's not like we don't work with developers, we do it all the time. The developer is responsible for reviewing the NCD standards. It's part of the zoning. It's a zoning overlay. And the developer had to go in front of the Historic Design and Review Commission and present the plan where'd that go? Oh, there it is. In that paperwork, he says right here, will comply with NCD 5, the historic guidelines. So the developer's responsible for doing that. He said he would do it, and the city's responsible for reviewing the plans and making that the plans comply. We are responsible for holding those people's feet to the fire, making sure that they're doing their job. This is from our Neighborhood Conservation District document. It says specifically, windows for new residential structures facing the street shall maintain a minimum vertical to horizontal dimension ratio 2:1 and the 1/over light division. So this is not allowed, that's what we want. This is not allowed, that's what's required. And again, he agreed to that. This is what we got. So we also had to ask to have the metal strips put in because none of the windows had a 1/1 light division. Now I did bring this to the developer's attention, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. He and I were interacting and I said on the text, oh, by the way, did DSD really approve those windows because they're not compliant with our NCD? And his text back was, thanks, have a good day. So that's an example of a square window. These are the correct dimension, 2:1, 2:1. He has gone in and put metal strips in the middle of those windows so that you have the 1/1 light division. And there's another example. So he is asking for a variance to be exempted from that requirement and to leave those windows. The Neighborhood Zoning and Urban Design Committee will submit a letter in opposition. This is part of what we do to defend our NCD, especially on something that was specifically revised just 3 years ago for a specific purpose. That being said, any member of the public who might feel differently can send in a letter, can speak at the hearing, and property owners with 200 feet will receive a notification from the city. And this is what it looks like, and it gives you a form here at the bottom that you can send back in, gives you the case number, case manager, and so forth. So that's my update. Yes.
When and where is this meeting going to take place?
So the meeting is March 16th. It's held at the One Stop, 1901 South Alamo. It's at 1 p.m. Anybody else have questions? Thank you.
I'm Cindy Laredo. I'm presenting on our crime watch, and so we've got a Citizens on Patrol on Facebook, and we invite everyone to join us. And just a little bit, we invite y'all to join us, and we want y'all to, if y'all see something, we want y'all to report it to 311 or 911. If you go to 311, make sure you get your case number. If it's 911, get your incident number. Join us on Facebook. We're trying to get a class of the Citizens on Patrol together for the Neighborhood Association. When we get more information on that, we'll put it on the Facebook, or we'll let the Neighborhood Association know, and whenever we get that together, we'll hopefully get people to join, and hopefully maybe get that an ongoing thing, and communication. Yes.
For your information, I've tried calling 311 in recent weeks on several different phones. Every time I've called, I keep getting trouble signal or recordings saying this is not a service, or some message to that effect. You might double check it for yourself, confirm it on your own phones, and see what happens, because if it's true that we cannot get through to 311, you've got a deeper problem with that.
Well, I'd be there. I'd have to check. Anybody else in here having a problem with 311?
Well, I will say just today, for some reason I'm the information clearinghouse, but a resident messaged me and said that when she tried to call, she got that she was not in the service area. And what can happen is if you're using a phone that uses like a internet instead of an actual cell signal, or is not a landline, the system can't confirm where you live. And so what you need to do in that case is actually, there's a 210 number
I'm gonna say it, I think it's right. It's 210-207-6000, but you can get on the city's.
That's right.
Yay, okay. You can get on the city's website to confirm that, and there's a similar thing with 911 even, so.
Okay, well then maybe for myself, I'll try and put those numbers on the, maybe we can put that on Beacon Hill and the.
It happened to me
citizens.
the other day too,
Okay,
so.
thank you for letting us know. Well, you'll have to write that number down too, and we'll share that information. We'll learn something new every day.
Yeah, two things real quick. So today we actually had an issue citywide for some
There you
reason.
go,
where our-
there you go,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
there
sorry.
you go.
We had an
There you go,
issue
Jack. Thank you for bringing
citywide
it.
where our systems were like messed up today. So email was messed up, our calls were kind of messed up. So maybe today there was an issue. Also, if you ever can't get through to 311, you can also call our office and we'll reach out to them for you. We'll answer it for you.
Okay, thank you. So it does happen.
Do you have more, or?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Was it me? Hey again. Sidell Brooks, I'm with Councilman Trevino's office. I don't really have any major updates. We just recently had our Renters Commission, not this past Saturday, but Saturday before, the 29th. Basically what Councilman Trevino is wanting to do is, we have a lot of different discussions about UDC estates and property and what's happening in our city, but he wants to make sure that renters also have a voice. So the Renters Commission is all going to be focused on ensuring that we have renters sitting in a position where they have the ability to speak and give a voice to issues that matter to all of us. And the meeting went pretty well. We had a little bit of back and forth. Some people don't think it needs to be established, but Councilman is still going to push for that because he wants to make sure everyone has a voice. So if you have any concerns or are interested in maybe being part of that, you can reach out to me. I think my information is on here. Again, my name is Sidell. And last thing, Liz Davies Park. I don't have an update yet on that. I'm working with Gabriella on it, and we're just seeing, what needs to happen for the water to get turned back on. She has told me again that adopting the park is an option, and then I'm sure if you all wanted to discuss that and think about what that means, I'm sure we could also offer some resources to help with that as well. So, any questions for me? Okay, thanks, y'all.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm with State Representative Diego Bernal and Crystal Ellis. Don't have much to say currently, but if you have any questions, comments, concerns for the state rep, I will be more than happy to take that to them. We will be having a food drive for Fiesta in April. I will send out the exact date because I don't remember at the moment and I don't want to lie to you. So yeah, you can ask me any questions at the end of the meeting and I'll stay around for about 5 minutes.
Do you think you'll have the Fiesta now on time for the food drive?
I surely hope so.
Well, we have to cross our fingers. We are having Fiesta. That's another thing.
Yeah.
That's all official here. Anyone have any last?
Yeah, I've got an alibi. I'm your neighbor, Cheryl Carney. I live down on Gramercy near the community garden. And I'm sure all of you voted, right? Everybody voted or tried to vote. A lot of people have tried to vote. They found out they weren't registered or they had the wrong color card or anything. I'm deputized to register people to vote. I'll come early to the meetings or late, but we only have till October to get everybody registered. If you have a disabled neighbor or something that can't go and get registered, Cynthia can contact me and I'll find out and I will go to them. All right. So if you need to get registered to vote, it's real quick and easy. It works faster than trying to go on the website. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll point to it. I doubt I have to stress to y'all, but spread the word. The more our neighborhood votes, the better. The more representation we get back.
Well, there's a runoff election on May 26th.
Right. And if we have a record of high voting percentages, they pay attention to that. They were more responsive to it. So
I did forget one thing. I wanted to tell everyone thank you for who have ever called 311 or said anything online for the car wash incident and the fiasco there. Thank you very much. It's been a work in process, but the teamwork that happened for that fiasco, I'm the one that got it rolling, so I'm glad it happened. But that's what we need in our neighborhood to get things like that for incidents like that. If you don't know it was a disaster, it's working. We need that all the communication. Call the phone numbers for incidents, whether it's a crime or the gunshots or dog bites. Let's know who our neighborhoods are. Just start off with a block of people. We need to get back to the old school where we left our doors unlocked and our windows open. All right, thank you.
Following up with the voter registration, another part of that is we're coming up on census time. They're going to be in the neighborhood, they're reading forms, they'll be coming to your houses, stuff like that. Please encourage people around you to fill those out and get that back in. And the more accurate our numbers are, the better for us. If we get undercounted, that does not help us. Okay. All right, shut up. Any last questions, comments? We're done. Thank you all very much. No, not for me, but do take a look at that map. Look at that map. It's very useful.
What did I want to just turn this? Oh, I know.